Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about that unbelievable Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez fight. We're going to talk about the card, we're going to talk about all the fights. I did make a video quickly yesterday, but today we're really going to go in depth, have a good chat about everything that went on that fantastic day of boxing in Las Vegas. Cover it all. Look, I just made a video talking about Inoue versus Akhmadaliev, so make sure after this video you go and check that one out. I also talk a little bit about Ricky Hatton. I spoke about that in that video. I don't want to talk about it again in this video. I spoke about it all that I think I need to in the last video, so definitely go and check that out, and let's get into it. Alright, we're going to rush through the lower fights, and we're going to talk more in depth as we build through this card. To open the fight, we had Al Muhammad on his debut at 17 years of age, taking on Martin Caraballo. 4-round contest, won unanimously, quite clearly, by Al Muhammad. Very good performance, 17 years of age, as I said, super featherweight. Look, it's hard to judge a 17-year-old, but off that performance, big things for this kid, big things for this kid. But he's got to keep building, fight regularly. It's not often we get to see a 17-year-old fight, and on a big card like this, he has every advantage to become a very good fighter. I hope he takes, I hope he takes full advantage of the opportunities that he's going to get. Marco Verde took on Sona Akale, 4th round stoppage. Akale was down in round 1. Pretty dominant performance from Marco Verde. Reito Tsutsumi, he beat Javier Martinez, round 1 TKO. If I remember correctly, I don't think this one should have been stopped. I think it was very early. I don't even think Javier Martinez hit the canvas yet, and the ref just waved it off. So I thought that was a bit of a rushed decision. I think some people were even calling that the Marco Verde one was a bit of a rushed decision. But hey, Reito Tsutsumi, he now moves to 2-0. 2-0 or 3-0? Must be 3-0 now for Reito Tsutsumi. Yeah, 3-0 for Reito Tsutsumi. He's very good. But him, Marco Verde, Al Muhammad, and the next guy we're going to talk about, Muhammad Alakel. Look, they're all so young. They're all so new. It's so hard to judge these fighters until we start seeing them get to the 12, get to the 13 fights, start to see them in tough contests against experienced fighters, because we do start to see mistakes creep into the fights. Muhammad Alakel is a perfect example. He beat Travis Crawford in a unanimous decision victory, but I don't think it was perfect. Alakel, he definitely dominated Crawford, don't get me wrong. He dominated Crawford, it wasn't close. I just saw a few times where Alakel was getting caught, getting clipped, getting a bit complacent, which are things that he's going to learn to lose with experience. The other thing that was a bit worrying was the fact that he couldn't get Travis Crawford out. 10 rounds, complete dominance. I was thinking, Alakel, let's put the pressure on here. Let's get this guy out of here. Fortunately, he couldn't. Maybe that's a Travis Crawford one. He just showed a very good chin in that fight. Maybe it's a power thing for Alakel. So young. He could become a much stronger fighter in 3 or 4 years when he actually grows into his full-grown body. I mean, you don't stop growing till you're, depending on who you are, but you can stop growing 24, 25, 26 years old. And for Muhammad Alakel, still so young, I'm sure it's probably just a power thing. Some people just don't have the power though, so we'll have to keep an eye on that as Alakel grows and develops. I would have just liked to have seen him find a way to get Crawford out of there. Alright, this is one that I don't agree with, but Ivan Ditchko has lost unanimously to Jermaine Franklin Jr. 10-round contest. Ditchko deducted 1 point in the 8th or 7th round. I think it was the 8th round for holding. Look, unanimous decision, 93, 96, 94, 95, 92, 97. For me, Ditchko won this fight. Marginally, but I thought Ditchko won this fight. I don't think Jermaine Franklin won it. I've only watched the fight once as it was live, so maybe if I go back and watch it again, I'll have a different opinion. But I thought it was pretty comprehensive that Ivan Ditchko did enough to win that fight. Although it wasn't spectacular, it wasn't magnificent, and Jermaine Franklin definitely held his own in that fight. I think the wrong guy got it. But I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. Alright, who else do we have on this fight? Alright, Steven Nelson, he took on Reiko Santana. Santana getting a first round TKO. Very, very good fight. I actually think I tipped Steven Nelson coming into this, so that was a fucking moronic move, that one. But, yeah, Reiko Santana, great first round stoppage. Callum Walsh, he beats Fernando Vargas. Actually, you know what? We'll come back to that one, because that one I was actually co-main. So let's talk about the fight of the night by a mile. This was unbelievable war between these two. Christian and Bealey with a split decision draw with Lester Martinez. Christian Bealey holds on to his WBC interim world super middleweight belt. Look, if you didn't watch this fight, I thoroughly encourage you to go and watch this fight, because it was brutal for both men. Lester Martinez must be made of fucking concrete, because Christian Bealey, we know how hard he punches, and he was getting some clean punches through, and Lester Martinez ate them up. And Christian Bealey, he even ate some coming back. I think this was a very, very good fight. Lester Martinez, someone that was ranked outside the top 15 at the time. Christian Bealey ranked number 2. It was a difficult fight for Christian and Bealey. Was a draw the right decision? I think so. I don't have any problems with it, to be honest. If you were to tip a winner, I think you're tipping Christian and Bealey. I don't think Lester Martinez did enough to win it. But I don't think you can be too pissed off with a draw. Christian Bealey, the onus was on him to win that fight. Don't get me wrong. So Lester Martinez did very, very well in that fight. Christian Bealey, the forward pressure is brutal. The power punching is brutal. The one thing that we've got to keep in line here is, I don't want to compare it to Edgar Berlanga directly, because I think Christian Bealey has taken on better opponents than Edgar Berlanga did coming into the Saul Canelo Alvarez fight. But the one thing that I will say is, when these fighters come into a fight, Christian Bealey, a very good amateur, 29-0 professionally, and some of his fights before his hard fight have been really easy. We're talking round 1 KOs, we're talking no fight really going past the 4th round. You sort of fall into a complacency and a bit of a ideology of, hey, I only have to last 4 rounds. I'm going to get him out of here. They can't handle my power. And when you come up against someone like Lester Martinez, who could handle the power, I saw Christian Bealey by the 4th, 5th round, and I was like, he's gassed, man. He looks gassed. He ended up pushing through it, and he ended up not being entirely gassed. He found a way through it. Still was throwing punches, but if he tries to fight the same way against Canelo, against Crawford now, and he's unable to find success early, these guys have the ability, the power, and the gas tanks to really make you pay for it. So he's got to be able to manage that energy and manage that power consumption, because a person that will take your punches and send them back will tire you out much more than Lester Martinez did. So he's got to watch that. He's got to watch that, because he went in there with a mindset to knock him out in the first few rounds, and when that didn't happen, I was looking at him, Bealey, and I says, do you have a second plan here? Do you know what you've got to do? Do you have the energy now to go through the years and get to the end of this fight and win this fight after using so much energy in the first few rounds? He ended up having the energy, and I thought it was a very good fight. But more than the fight, more than the result, more than anything, the draw, look, it's a bit of a stain on the record, but it's not a loss. Christian Bealey needs to look at that fight and take everything he can out of that fight, because they're the fights that mold you into a great fighter. They're the fights that you look back on and say, this is, for all the things that I've done good in my career, this is the fight where I've made mistakes. This is the fight where I've not done what I need to do. And you look back on it and you say, I can't afford to do this against the top guys. I can't. If it doesn't work on a guy that sits around the top 20, it's not going to work on someone that sits in the top 5. No doubt Bealey would have the power and the strength for a clean shot to knock out any of the top super middleweighters, whether it's Pacheco, whether it's Shiraz, whether it's Crawford, whether it's Canelo, whether it's any of these guys. I believe Bealey can knock them out. But as we saw with Canelo went into that fight against Crawford with one idea, and that was that Crawford couldn't take the punches. And when Crawford did take the punches, he looked almost lost of ideas. Mbili needs to make sure that he's got more than one plan than to take your head off. If this guy's eating your punches, how can I find a way around this to win the decision, to hurt this guy? Maybe the head's granite, but maybe the body's not. Maybe the body's granite, but the head's not. How can I open this guy up? How can I win this fight convincingly, even if I can't get an early stoppage? And I think these are all the things that Christian Mbili needs to question himself and work on in camp, ready for his next fight. I think this fight was a good learning curve for him. A tough contest against a very good fighter. He retains his WBC interim super middleweight championship. And he's gotten all this experience before his soon-to-be, whenever it arrives, battle with the guy that's holding the belt. Obviously, we're going to get into that in a bit when we talk about Crawford versus Canelo. Let's talk first against Serhii Bohachuk and Brandon Adams. That was another fight that I thought was exceptional. I know it was earlier on the card, but it didn't deserve to be earlier on the card, so we've left it till now. Serhii Bohachuk versus Brandon Adams, part 2. Same result. Well, not the same result, but the same winner. Brandon Adams winning a unanimous decision victory over Serhii Bohachuk. Another entertaining fight. One criticism I will have on this card was this fight deserved to be on the main card, and unfortunately, I know Turki Al-Sheikh is a big fan of Muhammad Alakel, but I think Alakel needs to still earn the position at the top table. And that's no slight on Alakel. The fact is he's 5-0. Coming into that fight, you're still not on that upper echelon yet. Serhii Bohachuk and Brandon Adams, throughout their career, have done enough to deserve a spot at the table on the top of the card. But that's the only slight I would have on that. The fight, Serhii Bohachuk and Brandon Adams did not disappoint. Brutal fight. And once again, Brandon Adams just got the best of Bohachuk in every department. Brandon Adams, I don't expect him to become a world champion at middleweight. I don't expect Brandon Adams to go on and become a hero after this fight. This was a very good fight for him. Nearing the end of his career, he gets another one over Bohachuk. I guess the question is for Bohachuk, where do we go from here? At one point, Bohachuk was rated as the next champion, the next very, very good champion. And he's just not sort of found that yet now. This is now his third loss, 2 to Brandon Adams and 1 to Virgil Ortiz. Yeah, Virgil Ortiz. I believe, a few years ago. But yeah, it's odd. It is odd for Serhii Bohachuk. And again, this was the chance that he rectifies the problems of his history and says, yeah, I lost to Brandon Adams, but that was a one-off slight. The only person I really should have lost to is Virgil Ortiz. I'm going to make that right tonight. I'm going to win. I'm going to win convincingly. And in almost every department, he was outgunned, outthought, outmoved, everything. Brandon Adams was better than him in every department. And for Serhii Bohachuk, someone that wants to push for a world championship coming up against an aging Brandon Adams, that was your time to say, I am above this level. I am world level, and I deserve a shot at someone. And he didn't. He got pummeled, to be honest, in every way. I will say one thing, though. The scorecards read 99, 91, 98, 92, 98, 92. You read that on paper and it looks awful. You watch that fight. That fight could have been anywhere scored from a draw to like 96, 94. Either way. We're talking, that's how close this fight was. You're just looking at it and saying, although all the rounds were close, Brandon Adams did better in every single one of them, basically. And then that's the problem here. He landed the heavier shots. He landed the quicker shots. He landed the more shots. Serhii Bohachuk just didn't look, at any point in that fight, the winner of that fight. So, back to the drawing board for Bohachuk. All right, let's talk about Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas. This got put as the co-main event. I thought Mbili versus Lester Martinez should have been the co-main. They're the only ones fighting for a belt other than the main card, but Callum Walsh got probably put there because of Dana White, and that's how it goes sometimes. But we'll talk about the decision first. Callum Walsh beats Fernando Vargas unanimously 99, 91, 99, 91, 100 to 90. There was no other way of scoring that fight. It was clear and entirely Callum Walsh throughout the fight. It wasn't a great fight. It kind of pissed me off, that fight. It was awful, in my opinion. Look, I might be being harsh. It wasn't great at all. I thought Callum Walsh, 24 years of age, the way that we speak about what he could offer, he didn't offer world level in that fight. Maybe he got complacent. Maybe he overlooked Fernando Vargas. Fernando Vargas, I thought, fought very well. He was counted out in that fight. I think he made a good account of himself. Although beaten in every facet of the fight, I think his boxing ability was second to Callum Walsh, but his athleticism and his heart showed. I think he didn't stop trying that whole entire fight. But the fact in boxing is you can try as hard as you want, but if you're outskilled, it's really hard to make up for that, no matter how hard you try. Callum Walsh was just more skillful, but I thought Callum Walsh showed that he was limited in that fight. I don't think he will have his stock raised at all from that fight. I don't think he took advantage of that fight. I think he got complacent. I think he thought it was going to be easier than it was. And for a guy like Callum Walsh, that was your chance to put super welterweight on notice, and I think it was your chance to really pull in fans. You know, you're 24 years old, you're a very good fighter, you have people backing you, you've got Ireland behind you. Let's get a big crowd behind this guy and let's build Callum Walsh into a superstar. And this was his chance. Co-mating for Canelo versus Crawford, millions of eyes on this fight. And the fight, I mean, the crowd was quiet. I heard booing. It was not great. And for Callum Walsh, that was his chance, I think, to really grab the audience and say, I'm here to stay and I'm here to wreck. 24 years of age, I'm going to move to 15-0. I'm going to knock this guy out easily, and I'm going to show the world that Callum Walsh is here to stay, that I am the king. And I don't think he did any of that, unfortunately. I thought it was a boring fight. I thought Fernando Vargas showed a lot of heart but was outskilled. And Callum Walsh, although outskilled Fernando Vargas, showed a little bit of why he's not going to be world champion very soon, in my opinion. I thought he looked limited. I thought he looked a little bit lost at some points, and I thought his energy and his activity really dropped off in the second half of that fight. These are all things that you can afford to do at 15-0 now, 24 years of age. These are all the things that you've got to learn, right? So that's what I'm expecting Callum Walsh to do. I know he didn't perform, but you got to take this opportunity to learn from that fight, and in the next fight, keep going. It's not like he suffered a loss. He still won dominantly. We're going to look back on this fight as in it was nothing. If he becomes world champion in 2 to 3 years' time, this fight will be long forgotten. It won't really matter as long as he goes and he learns from it. That's all that I will say. Callum Walsh, though, I still think he has it in him. But he's got to find a way. He's got to go back to the drawing board, and he's got to really put everything into every fight. I feel like he got complacent on this one. All right, let's talk about the main card. I know I've rambled, but there was a lot of fights to cover today, and I did want to talk about them all because it was a big event. But now we're here. I do like making these types of videos that go a bit longer, a bit of a review of the weekend. I like you guys in the comments to let me know what you guys think. Do you like the longer videos? Do you think I should shorten it? Do you think I should not talk about all the fights? What would you guys like? You got to let me know in the comments so I can keep making this content. We're building a very good community here, which I'm very thankful for. We're nearly at 130 subscribers. I think that's very, very good. I appreciate everybody that takes their time to come and watch these videos, leave a comment, everything else. And the more views, the more subscribers we get, the more content we're going to make. Look, I've got some big ideas that I want to make happen, but I need you guys' support. But let's talk about this fight. Crawford versus Canelo. Crawford wins unanimous decision, 116 to 112, 115 to 113, 115 to 113. It was a masterclass from Crawford. His speed and precision demolished Canelo. Canelo could not live with the speed or the precision of Crawford. The jab, the power punches, the movement. Canelo looked lost. He looked angry. He looked agitated. All the things that I basically saw him do against William School. Now, we called that William School fight a one-off. We said, well, his opponent spent the whole fight running around. Yes, Canelo needs to learn how to close off the ring, but when it comes to the big fights, he will do that. And unfortunately, this was a big fight, and once again, Canelo Alvarez was unable to close off the ring. Crawford, I doubted you, buddy. Look, I doubted you, Many people did doubt you. I'm not going to pretend as though I was backing you the whole way. There's the videos out there to show you that I had Canelo tipped. Yes, Canelo is my favorite, but I still thought Canelo was going to win that fight. And Crawford, once again, as he's done for his whole career, proved all the naysayers wrong, proved all the doubters wrong, and I cannot be more happy for Terence Crawford and the things that he's now achieved in his career. It would be hard for anyone now to make a Mount Rushmore and not have Crawford's face on there. I think he's in every GOAT discussion that there's going to be. I think we're talking pound for pound, maybe the greatest. I know there is some great pound for pound stars out there, but for Terence Crawford, the fight, let's start with the fight, and then we'll talk about what it means for Crawford and what's next, and we'll talk about Canelo and everybody else. Crawford, I thought he started very, very well. My main doubt for him was, how sluggish is he going to look? Is his jab going to be as quick? And although he might start quick, is the engine going to be there? And every single one of those things, I was wrong about. His jab was just as quick as when he fought Errol Spence. His movement, his footwork, his pace, his precision, everything was there that we saw at welterweight. But somehow, this guy, this great of boxing, was able to transfer all of that skill up 20, 30 pounds against someone that's arguably the best super middleweighter of all time, arguably the best Mexican fighter of all time. And I don't say that lightly. We're talking two greats, one of which moving up a few weight divisions and still dominating the heavier fighter. Crawford is a killer. He is a dominant fighter. He is someone that, you look at Usyk, the way in which he was able to go from cruiserweight to heavyweight and fight these really heavy dudes, but the boxing IQ, the boxing intelligence, the boxing know-how, the footwork, the speed, and everything else that comes up in here shows that boxing is everything to do with what you've got mentally, right? You can be as athletic as you want to be. You can be as hardened as you want to be. But the fact is, when someone as smart as Crawford is against you, the task is impossible. When someone as smart as Usyk is against you, the task is impossible. When someone as smart as Inoue is against you, the task is impossible. And Crawford showed that his boxing IQ, I think we're talking about one of the best boxing minds we're ever going to see. Honestly, this guy, you run out of superlatives to describe this guy. We're looking at a fight there where he starts quickly. He gets the first few rounds banked. I think the speed, the in and out, the reading of Canelo was good. We then push on to about the fifth round. Canelo really makes a statement in that fifth round. He says, I'm going to bully you here. He keeps ripping to the body. And every body shot, Crawford looked like he ate up. He didn't feel shit. Even the punches to the head, he didn't feel. Round 5, he realizes, hey, Canelo stepped it up a gear here. Round 6, he comes out and obliterates Canelo. In and out, power punching, speed, rocking Canelo's head back and saying, this is my fight, big boy. And from then on, I was like, Crawford's winning this fight. We saw Crawford throughout from probably 6th round to the 10th round. He gets really loose. He's moving around the ring. He's coming in and out of the pocket. Speed. Nothing dies down. And we start seeing Crawford tongue out, hitting off the ropes, hitting in the middle, knocking Canelo around. Someone that's a big power puncher, not scared of his power. Everything Canelo threw back at him, he ate. And these I don't say lightly, because Canelo is an unbelievable fighter. But Crawford is one of the GOATs, man. He is unbelievable. Where does this leave Canelo off that performance? Look, to be honest, I have absolutely no idea where this leaves either of them. For Canelo Alvarez, the excuses of his performances lately have been the excuse of, well, he's not up against a high-quality opponent. When he gets that high-quality opponent, he'll turn it on and he'll show how good he is. This was his high-quality opponent, and he looked slow, he looked sluggish, he looked lost, he looked stuck in his ways, and I don't think we saw a great Canelo on that night. Was it complacent? I don't think you can use that as an excuse. I don't think. That was the biggest fight of your career. Complacency isn't an issue. I think it's age. I think it's Canelo's peak has been reached, and we're on the downward slope of Canelo. Although the downward slope is still a very, very high level, to beat Canelo, to beat Crawford, you have to be at your top. You have to be at your greatest. You have to be perfect in every department. You have to be the Canelo we saw fighting Billy Joe Saunders. You have to be the Canelo we saw against Gennady Golovkin. You have to be the Canelo that we remember at 30 years old. And unfortunately, at 35 years of age, fighting since 15 professionally, 63 fights, lots and lots of rounds banked, I think we've seen a Canelo that is feeling the age, an age that Crawford hasn't experienced because he's fought a whole lot less rounds, he's fought a whole lot less professionally, and he's gotten his opponents out of there quicker. And we're also seeing a Crawford that has fought sort of typically once a year, rather than a Canelo who's fought 2 to 3 times a year since he was 15. And I think all those things added up for Canelo. Unfortunately for Canelo, this will hinder his resume, and I think there is ways for him to resolve that issue. And that's what brings us on to now. What's next for Canelo? I think if Canelo accepts a fight against a David Benavidez type fighter, someone that we've wanted him to fight for a very long time, he accepts that fight and wins it, I think all the hindrance of what the Crawford loss on his resume will do will almost be erased, because we'll look back on his resume and say, Canelo is a great fighter. He's beaten everybody that's been put in front of him, apart from Floyd Mayweather, 50-0, one of the greatest of all times, Dimitri Bivol, one of the greatest of all times at light heavyweight, and Terence Crawford, possibly the greatest pound-for-pound fighter and one of the Mount Rushmore fighters. You know, I think this Benavidez thing will hinder him, because people will now look back and say, well, we now know why he didn't want to fight Benavidez. Look, don't get me wrong. Do I think the Canelo that fought Crawford on the weekend beats Benavidez? Not a chance. Not a chance in hell. We need to see a much better Canelo than we saw against Crawford. And the question is, does he still have it in him? I'm not sure. For Crawford, this is the question now. 37 years of age, 42 wins, 31 knockouts. What does he do next? Does he defend those super middleweight belts in a weight division that he is not used to? Yes, he fought very well against Canelo, and don't get me wrong, he looked amazing, but it's still not his division. He still might not feel comfortable in that division. He might say, this is it, this is my time, this is end. I don't see any clear opponent that I say I want to see Crawford fight. Obviously, there was those fights that we wanted to see Canelo in, and Beerley, Hamza Shiraz. Those fights are still probably doable for Canelo. For Crawford, someone that we've spoken about in the welterweight and super welterweight divisions for so long, it now becomes the question of, well, you're all of a sudden now 3 divisions higher than what you were. We've never really spoken about who you would fight in this division. And now he has the belts. Who do we want to see Crawford fight next? For me, if I was Crawford, or if I was Crawford's manager, I'm laying the gloves down and I'm saying, I'm done. I've accomplished everything and anything in this sport, and nothing I take now will make my career, resume, or anything else more elite. I can risk a loss, but you're risking losses against people that if you beat, you're not going to get the credit you probably deserve, if that makes sense. He could take a very, very hard fight against Christian Mbeele and beat him, but you say, well, Mbeele didn't look great against Lester Martinez, and, you know, he's just not on Crawford's level. But Christian Mbeele could come out and stop Crawford, and then all of a sudden you're looking at Crawford and saying, fuck, he risked that perfect record and his legacy for that. You know, these are the conversations that we're going to have. Maybe Crawford wants to run it back with Canelo. That would still be a huge money fight, and I think for Crawford did nothing but get better in that fight. Another 12 rounds with him, Crawford might back himself to get him out of there. So, for me, it's a tough decision. If you're looking for legacy, you retire now. If you're looking for money, you try and get a Canelo too. If you just want to fight, there's plenty of people at super middleweight to fight. There's plenty of people. You just got to pick your opponent. Crawford might even do something silly and say, hey, give me light heavyweight. give me middleweight. Give me another division to get belts in. I don't know. I don't know what Crawford wants to do. If I was him, I would retire now or take another Canelo fight. Other than that, I think Crawford needs to look, because I want to talk about his resume now, because this resume is outstanding, and I want to give him all the props for the career that he's had, in case this is the last time we see him, and it's just unbelievable. I can't believe what this guy has accomplished now. I think that Canelo Alvarez, he's gone from here all the way up here with that Canelo win. I think it's elevated him to a land of which we are unknown, because it's not just a great fighter that you've beat. This is a legendary fighter that you've beaten 20 pounds out of your own weight division to become undisputed in a new weight division. So let's talk about some of the wins. Let's talk about his belts. He's beaten Ricky Burns, Amir Khan, Kell Brook, Sean Porter, Uricus Gamboa, Victor Postal, Julius Indongo, Jeff Horn, Jose Benavidez Jr., Errol Spence Jr., Israel Madrimov, Canelo Alvarez. He's become the lightweight world champion. He's become the interim super welterweight world champion. He's become the undisputed super lightweight world champion, the undisputed welterweight world champion, and the undisputed super middleweight world champion. He became undisputed welterweight champion, beating possibly one of the best welterweight fighters we've ever seen in Errol Spence Jr. He's beaten possibly the best ever super middleweight fighter we've ever seen in Canelo Alvarez. Look, these are all questions that will have different opinions. Are they the best in those divisions? That's your interpretation. But the fact that they're in those discussions shows the level of opponent that he's beaten to become undisputed in these divisions, world champion in these divisions. One of the greatest of all times. 42 wins, 31 knockouts, no losses, no draws, 37 years old. Terence Bud Crawford. You are unbelievable. Guys, leave all your thoughts in the comments about what we spoke about today. Like, subscribe. We're pushing for 200 subscribers. I'd love to get there by the end of this year. And I'm out of here, guys. See yous.